Everyone gets very excited about the idea of space travel, but it's not going to be everybody that gets to go. Monsters aren't as scary if you start shining lights on them. I wrote for King of the Hill for 3 seasons. Everybody has a stake in the story of policing. Nolan can put Batman in full body armor, have him drive a car that looks like a tank, and make him political, and everyone says, oh, that's okay. But try making him Filipino, and everyone gets mad. There are certain things that you can blast through a stereo. You can blast hip-hop, you can blast heavy metal, you can't blast All Things Considered. There are things that are only palatable until they become uncomfortable for us, so it's very easy to complain about some problem the minute it becomes a problem for you. But you're okay with certain aspects of gentrification if they're the aspects you like. I wrote this 12-page Luke Cage comic book for Marvel once, and I got to create a villain. His name was Lone Shark, so there was this running thing of whether it was spelled L-O-N or L-O-N-E. I like the idea of, I'm a lone shark, and then people are like, you are here to collect a debt? For me, in trying to talk about something like policing, it's such a huge issue, and it's an issue that's very local and very personalized to communities, to cities, to legislators, and so, in that way, I think as we started looking into talking about policing, the thing that you realize is that you can't paint everything with the same brush. At The Daily Show, we were satirizing a news program. You put somebody in a suit, you put M behind a desk, and they become an authority figure. I was arrested when I was 19 for inciting a riot. I always found myself feeling that happiness rises and frustration trickles down. If the people at the top are frustrated, then everybody down the line feels that. But if the people at the bottom are happy and fulfilled, then they do their jobs a little better, and it goes up that way. I represent my community, and I represent my people, and I've got to be honest if something seems questionable. I think, with any topical show, it's very easy to find yourself caught up in the news cycle, and working at The Daily Show, I definitely found myself in that, where we would be talking about the last 24 hours. There's so many shows, whether it's Last Week Tonight or The Daily Show or Full Frontal or Late Night with Seth Meyers, that are really doing great stuff talking about what's going on in the world and what's going on with the president, and those stories that everyone winds up talking about, whether on social media or in their jobs. I think, with these shows, with Last Week Tonight, with Full Frontal, I think, as these shows have evolved, we all have research departments now. For me, when I think of curiosity on television, a lot of times my childhood was shaped by shows on PBS that encouraged and embraced curiosity. There's more we can do as a community to try to change what policing looks like in our cities. As long as you walk away from any experience, good or bad, with lessons and things you can take into the next experience, I don't think you can do anything but look back on it with an appreciation. One of the things that I was kind of holding on to from The Daily Show was there was an exhaustion that I would feel because we just kind of got caught up in the news cycle. You tell a story, and that's an interesting story, and then the next day we have to drop it and talk about something else. That's so unfair to the story and the people. Watching something is a personal experience, and I think watching something that is dealing with a heavy subject matter, it's a personal thing. It's interesting to go places and see that, at the end of the day, people just want to feel safe, and what that looks like to them varies, but that was encouraging to see that there is more common ground than perhaps I realized. The majority of the DC and Marvel comic lines are white male characters, and the minute you make Thor a woman or Captain America a black guy, the internet is filled with hateful comments and people saying, that's not what Captain America is supposed to look like. We all live with contradictions. There are 18,000 police agencies in this country. There's no network requiring them to operate according to the same guidelines. I am not looking at my TV show to change the world. Women deal with real issues with policing that don't really get talked about. Policing of the disabled and how many deaf people get shot by cops is sort of insane, and it's not talked about. I can't be manic without it feeling false to me. The thing that I'm known for, at least, depending on what subreddit you go to, is being a comedian. And so, even when talking about heavy things, I still want to try to use humor to walk us in the door. When I was in college, I walked by the journalism school every day on my way to my own classes, and that's the closest I've come to having any sort of journalism background. There's always a certain concern whenever you go and shoot a field piece, that maybe all the elements won't come together, knowing that you have limited time to tell a story, hoping that you get all the elements you need, hoping the subjects are comfortable. If you want to be the comic relief in a big budget movie, go to LA because there are 5 auditions in a week that you could hit up, and that increases your chances of getting those jobs. There aren't a lot of roles for sleepy-eyed black dudes. I kinda feel like if I can do what I like in New York, and I like New York, I was born in New York, I have a lot more of a connection to New York, the hope is to stay in New York. Sometimes I feel I'm being animated, but it comes off differently. Unfortunately, I was cursed with these sleepy eyes. When I used to put videos on MySpace, there'd always be someone posting something nasty. To those people, I'd send friend requests, and invariably, they accepted them. I just hate the internet. It's a very short walk to go from making jokes to getting on a soapbox and going on a diatribe. Flights are a good way to catch up on podcasts, but I'll listen to some jazz to fall asleep. I listen to a lot of Freddie Hubbard. I went to an all-boys Catholic school in Dallas. Kanye is a student of art. He's an art school dropout type of kid that will talk about art till the cows come home. There are some artists that may actually be crazy, but there are some artists that just make different choices, and because they are different, we call them crazy. I have worked in animation on King of the Hill. I've worked in late night with The Daily Show. I've worked on single camera stuff, whether it was a movie or television. I have performed on stage. I'm not trying to walk away from responsibility or anything like that, but I think there's a bunch of people on TV who get trust simply for being on TV. If you have a car, you tune it up, you replace the parts. You try to keep it in good shape. This country has tires that are shot, a bunch of engine problems, and rather than saying, okay, let's maybe put some new parts in here, we just keep putting gas in and driving forward. What's sad is that we can have a reality television performer for president without incorporating the other aspects of reality television, like voting and voter engagement. I probably learned more about Marion Barry listening to Chris Rock than I did reading a headline. I remember Tim Meadows gave me a radio. It was a radio he didn't want anymore. I gave it to my grandmother, and she had it, till the day she died. To me, it was, I got a thing from Tim Meadows. I think my grandmother was like, I got a thing from my grandson. Visit our website for more quotes, quoting.com.